What up, YouTube? Um, this video is going to talk about 666, what it is and what it's not. So I'm letting him talk to about his idea what it is, and then I'm gonna chime in.
They're talking about 666. They're talking about the number of the beast, the devil number, 666. Why out of all numbers is that the devil number? And because carbon 12 composed is 6 protons, 6 neutrons, and 6 electrons.
It's not the devil number; it's the man. It's the number of man. But we'll talk about that later.
Us as black people have 6 protons, 6 neutrons, and 6 electrons in our skin. This is carbon. Whoa, they ain't teach y'all this in chemistry? Because I swear, bro, on self, as soon as I heard this in chemistry, my third eye almost activated right on the spot, man. It's a perfect example of how they teach you what to think, not how to think. Because, bro, as soon as I heard that, I was like, don't I got carbon in my skin? Isn't carbon all around us? That would mean 666 is everywhere. But don't they say God is everywhere? So why would they want you to think 666 is the devil's favorite number? Then I found out they don't even got a reason. Stop what you're doing. I mean, if 666 is carbon and carbon is everywhere, carbon is in us, it's like, wouldn't it make sense that they would want you to think that that's the devil's favorite number? They got us scared of ourselves. Oh, wait, but you still don't believe me? Pause the video and read it.
He's basically saying that melanin is made from carbon. So he's saying that melanin is 666. So if you're melanated or you're quote unquote black, then that means that you have a divine property in you, and or you're God incarnate, basically. And the one thing about pro blacks, they don't understand that it's not the melanin that makes you special. It's that you're the promise that makes you special. You know, remember all the ancient cultures, they were so called black. You know, the Israelites or the Ishmaelites or the Canaanites, the Moabites, all them, Ammonites, they were all so called black people. But the thing that made the Israelites special is that they had the gift of the promise. They had the prophecies, the commandments, they had the covenant that was connected to them. And that's what makes their descendants special, is that they had that connection. It's not because of their melanin.
So a quick hypothetical here. Say the world was out to get black people. Say the whole world was against melanated beings. Wouldn't they want you to think that since carbon is in melanin, wouldn't they want you to think that 666 represents evil? Me personally, if I was trying to oppress people and keep them from knowing who they was, I would tell them what is all throughout their body is evil and the devil, nigga. And if you don't believe me, just stitch this with a reason in the Bible. Stitch this with a reason as to why 666 is the devil's favorite number. Because I always wondered that anyway, man. Like, as soon as I heard that, I was like, they really just be telling y'all shit. Why is that the devil's favorite number out of all numbers?
And that's why you gotta be careful around the pro blacks. And when I say pro blacks, I don't mean brothers and sisters who are really for their people. I mean people like this guy and the guy before him. They just like to talk. And that's why I said they have knowledge, but they don't have understanding. They make everything about race. They make everything about blackness, quote unquote, when it's a lot deeper than that. 666 is not about melanin. It's not about carbon. It's about Saturn, the quote unquote horn god, aka the sun god, aka the father god, the sixth planet from the sun, Saturn. In Greece, his name is Kronos. And other culture, he goes by different names. But that's what it's about. 666 or six in general is the number of man because Adam was created on the sixth day. And all this is about veneration of Adam. The ancient pagans, they venerated Adam as their predecessor, that's their liberator. And that's what Saturn is based off Adam in the scriptures. But that's what I said. These pro blacks, they just think about race. They just think about blackness. That's why they blacked out of their mind. They don't really understand what's going on. But we're gonna talk about some things. So let's go into this right here. So there's an article from Science ABC. It says, why are there 24 hours in a day, 60 minutes in an hour? So you ever wondered? The reason that there are 24 hours in a day and 60 minutes an hour is because of the way that the Egyptians and Babylonians divided up the day. They used the base 12 and base 60 system, respectively, in order to make it easier to count on their fingers. Now, we understand that the ancient Babylonians, they had a way of doing things that they influenced the world at the time, especially the ancient Israelites. But this is the reason why we have 60 seconds in a minute, 60 minutes in an hour, 24 hours in a day. They're all derivatives of six because they venerate that number as a way to venerate their God. In recent years, what is one of the most common answers we give in response to any question we're asked, request made of us, or suggestion of how we spend our time? Obviously, it came as no wonder that we never have time to ever think about the time we have, not even the time we have, but the way we organize it. Confused? Let me clarify. Have you ever wondered why the wristwatch strapped to your arm, assuming you still use one, your mobile screen, or any other damn clock in the world shows 12 numbers signifying 12 hours? Why isn't it some other random number like 28 or 16? What is the significance of 12 in our perception of time? I mean, if you give it any thought, you can't deny that our measuring system is pretty weird. Allow me to explain. 24 hours are divided into two parts, a day lasting 12 hours and a night lasting 12 hours. 1 hour contains 60 minutes, which also has 60 seconds seconds each. Each second is divided into 1,000 milliseconds. Now, that seems like a rather strange way to divide a day. No wonder kids have trouble learning how to tell time. However, as always, like every other thing in the world, there is a reason behind this too. That is true. There is always a reason behind it. And that's what we should be striving to learn all the time. Why are we doing the things that we do? Because that's what makes our culture. A culture is why you're doing what you do. It's not just simply doing it. You got to understand why you're doing it. It's the reason why we do what we do. The impact of civilization. In today's world, we widely use the decimal number system, a system that is believed to have originated because it made it easy for us to count things on our fingers. Back then, when humans were still exploring the wonders of nature and finding answers to their countless questions, many other numerical systems were commonly used. The Egyptians and Babylonians, who first divided the day into similar parts, used duodecimal base 12 and sexagesimal base 60 numeral systems. They obviously begs the question, why base 12 and base 60? The reason is very simple yet quite surprising. As you see, they divided or they used their fingers to put a section of three. So one, two, three, in between. The distal part of your hand, your finger, just middle part of your finger, and third part of your finger. Yes, believe it or not, the structure of our fingers is precisely the reason. The number of fingers, joints on each hand, excluding the thumb, makes it possible to count to 12 by using the thumb. Surprisingly, at what simple explanation that is, well, things are going to get slightly more complicated. So, why 24 hours? Let's try to understand this step by step. The 24-hour day concept comes from the ancient Egyptians. They divided the day into 10 hours with devices like shadow clocks, and then added 1 hour at each, and one for twilight, one at the end of day. Later, a T shaped bar was made by the Egyptians, which was calibrated to divide the time between sunrise and sunset into 12 parts. However, the absence of sunlight made it difficult to divide the time at night. It's pretty interesting to learn how they managed to do this. Yes, nighttime division of time was based on observation of stars. In those ancient times, with no sophisticated technology to use, they instead chose 36 star groups, small constellations called decans. So you see that 36, you see derivatives of six. That's what it's all about, man. They venerate their God through their numbers, which rose consecutively on the horizon as the earth rotated. Each decan rose before sunrise and marked the beginning of a 10-day period. A total of 36 decans thus led to 36 times 10 equals 360 days of a year. From one twilight to another, 18 of these decans were visible. However, each twilight period had three of these decans assigned. However, each twilight period had three of these decans assigned, leaving 12 for the period of complete darkness. The dual decimal system is working here as well. Thus, the rise of each decan marked an hour, so we ended up with 12 hours in each night. It seems kind of complicated. However, all that time, the hours did not have a fixed length. The Greek astronomers who were then trying to find answers to the queries of the universe, existence in stars and galaxies. In short, astronomers found it difficult to manage calculations with the prevailing method. Then Hipparchus gave us the equinoctial hours by proposing the division of a day into 24 equal hours. Even then, for a long time, ordinary people kept using the seasonally varying hours. It wasn't until the 14th century in Europe, when mechanical clocks came into use in Europe, that commoners began using the system that we practice to this day. And we know in the 14th century, that's when we had the bubonic plague or the Black Plague, which caused a lot of social upheavals in Europe at that time. Uh, and also, that was the start of the Black rulership of Europe to be changed. But why 60 minutes and 60 seconds? The Greek astronomers who helped us make life simpler by equally dividing 24 hours followed the Babylonians' sexagismal base 60 system for astronomical calculations. So for convenience, they further divided an hour into 60 minutes and each minute to 60 seconds. It is unknown why the Babylonians used the base 60 system, but it may be because 60 is a special number for fraction calculations. Or it could be because they use a derivative of 6 to venerate their god, Saturn, or in Babylonian, it was Marduk, but it's all talking about the same person, um, or Bel, or however you want to, it's all the same person, depending on the culture. They just go by different names. So it is the smallest number divisible by the first six counting numbers and also by 10, 12, 15, 20, and 30. The concept of millisecond is quite modern. And so to use the base 10 system, each second is divided into 1,000 milliseconds. Now, isn't that interesting? The eloquent ideas of our ancestors still rule our day to day lives thousands of years later. Now, go out there and flaunt your newly increased knowledge of time and make the best use of it. So that's why it's like, that's why I say this world that we live in is a Babylonian convention. It's not just an American thing. It's not just a westernized world thing. This is a global thing because the westernized culture gets its culture from the Greco-Roman culture, which gets its culture from the Babylonian culture, which comes from Egypt and ancient Sumer, and also Canaanite culture. So that's how things are all related. Yeah. So that's why it's like this is not just about melanin. This is a lot deeper than that. This whole world is governed by the Babylonian system or Greco-Roman system. Even our time, our days, everything. All right, let's do this. All right, and I mentioned Saturn. So this is Saturn. Oh, the first. Let's talk about Kronos. So Kronos, that's the Greek version of Saturn. So Kronos is the god of time. That's where we get the word father time from. But let's just read a little bit about his story. So Kronos was the leader and youngest of the first generation of Titans, the divine descendants of primordial Gaia and Uranus, father sky, and mother earth. He overthrew his father and ruled during the mythological golden age until he was overthrown by his own son Zeus and imprisoned in Tartarus. So remember, the mythology is based off real history. So they just mythological or they mythicize the story. Um, but when it talks about he overthrew his father and took his place and had the golden age, they're talking about Adam. They're talking about Adam when he broke free from quote unquote broke free from the Most High's commandment and he ate from the tree, ate from the fruit of good of knowledge of good and evil. Because when we read the Bible, those of us who believe in the scriptures, we see that as the fall of mankind. The pagan cultures saw that as the golden age of mankind when man was free, quote unquote, free from the Most High and the Most High's law because it was constraining them, it was holding them back. And that's how you know the spirit of the Antichrist is because it will always try to push you into believing that the Most High is some tyrant, evil creature that's trying to oppress you, who's trying to hold you back. So that's why you see, with modern day Christianity, they use the Christ figure that they claim to believe in as a way to liberate us from the Most High's law. And when you know about the God of Liberty, who's the mother goddess, I mentioned this in the feminism talk I made a while back. Libertas was the mother goddess of liberty. That's where we get the Statue of Liberty from. So, Libertas is based off Eve because she was the one who gave Adam the fruits. She was the first teacher to Adam, and she freed him, quote unquote, or liberated him from, the Most High's commandment. And that's what they're talking about. That's the golden age. They believe that that's when mankind was actually free. So that's it. So this is Kronos was usually depicted with a harp or a scythe or sickle, which was instruments he used to castrate and dispose Uranus, his father. Um, okay, yeah, all right, yeah, let's do this. And then you see a picture right here, Kronos, god of the harvest, member of the Titans. You see him with his sickle in his hand and his right hand up, his fingers pointing up. You see that? You see that right there? You see what other person or figure has that finger up like that? Remember the Baphomet or the Caucasian image of Christ? Because that's what they're talking about. They're talking about this is the God they want the world to worship. All right. So let's go into the story. So Kronos learned from Gaia and Uranus that he was destined to be overcome by his own children, just as he had overthrown his father. As a result, although he sired the gods, Demeter, Hestia, Hera, Hades, Poseidon, Barea, he devoured them all as soon as they were born to prevent the prophecy. When the sixth child, Zeus, remember that's six, Rhea saw Gaia to devise a plan to save them and eventually get retribution on Kronos for his acts against his father and the children. Rhea secretly gave birth to Zeus in Crete and handed Cronus a stone wrapped in swaddling clothes, as also known as the Omphalos stone, which he promptly swallowed, thinking it was his son. And the Omphalos stone is like what we call the sin bearing stone. It's the stone, or Zeus represented the stone that was going to atone for his father's sins. And that's why how you can see how they conflate and mix in some of their pagan uh, history or mythology with the scriptures, and that's what we call the mystery of iniquity, where they try to confuse the reader into trying to worship the pagan gods with the real God of the Bible. All right. So Rhea kept Zeus hidden in a cave on Mount Ida, Crete. According to some versions of the story, he was then raised by a goat named Almathia, while a company of Coretus, armored male dancers, shouted and clapped their hands to make enough noise to mask the baby's cries from Kronos. Other versions of the myth have Zeus raised by the nymph uh, Adamanthia, who hid Zeus by dangling him by a rope from a tree that he was suspended between the earth and the sea and the sky, all of which were ruled by his father, Kronos. Still, other versions of the tale say that Zeus was raised by his grandmother Gaia, and that's why it's like when you read or you hear when you watch movies like The Lion King or movies like Black Panther or even the movie Hercules, they all try to venerate the story of this entity. They try to get you as a child to embrace these stories because that's a cryptic way, in a subconscious way, for them to get you to accept these stories as part of your subconscious, so you can become acquainted to the Babylonian mysteries and the Greco-Roman philosophies, especially as a child. Because if you accept it as a child, then you're more willing to accept it as an adult. You know. So that's what those Marvel movies are about. Even Avengers Endgame is like that. Um, or see you like this. So once he had grown up, Zeus had used an emetic given to him by Gaia to force Kronos to disgorge the contents of his stomach in reverse order. First, the stone, which was set down at Pytho under the glens of Mount Parnassus to be assigned to mortal men, and then his two brothers and three sisters. In other versions, the tale Metis gave Kronos an emetic to force him to disgorge the children. After fleeing his siblings, Zeus released the Hecatoncheires and the Cyclops who forged for him his thunderbolts, Poseidon's trident, and Hades' helmet of darkness. The vast war called the Titamaki, Zeus and his older brothers and sister, with the help of Hecate, and Cyclops, overthrew Cronus and other Titans. Now, this is what Avengers Endgame is all about. And you remember that last scene, or one of the last scenes when Captain America, Thor, and Iron Man, they all went up to fight against um, what's his name, the uh, the Mad Titan, um, Thanos. They went up to fight. Even Thanos was called the Mad Titan when you read the comics. That's what he's about because he represented Saturn. Um, he was the god of he had all this with the six stones. He was able to do everything. So he's the god of time. So he had all the qualities of Saturn. And you see Zeus and his brothers, they fought against him, and everybody else fought against him. Same thing with Captain America and Arm and and Iron Man. Even at what you see right there with the thunderbolts, you see that Poseidon had his trident. Same thing with Thor, he had his hammer, and Hades had his helmet. Same with Iron Man, he had his helmet on. You know, that's the same thing. Is they just recreate the story in modern day just to make you more acquainted with their stories. But yeah, that's it. I don't want to go into too much detail with that though. But this is a painting of Saturn devouring his son. So these are paintings. This one's from Francisco Goya back in the 1800s, and then this one uh, was another painting of Saturn eating his son in 1600s, and it was another one right here. So these are stories that they try to just to make in order to get you to just be acquainted with the story. Uh, and then also these the pagan cultures, they used to believe that there was a divine power by sacrificing a child and drinking the blood of the child, because they thought that the blood of the child was pure, so they would get some type of powers from that. In the same way today, you hear about quote unquote adrenochrome, it's used, or the baby's blood or fetal cells to stay youthful, to have a youthful look. That's not a new concept. That's why I say like, everything is new. That's like the scriptures say. There's nothing new under the sun. You know. Uh oh, and also I wanted to put this out here. So you remember that picture we saw of Zeus, right? Holding his hand up, or not Zeus, Saturn holding his left hand up or right hand up. The same thing we see right here with the Baphomet. You see it right there. His hand is up, pointing to the sky, and it says right there, Salve. And then his left hand is down, and it says coagulate. So it's like dissolve and bring together. Solve, coagulate. Dissolve, coagulate is to dissolve. Solve is to bring together. So that's why they bring the opposites together. They bring men and women together, black and white together, up and down together. They try to bring the opposites together so they can conform this alchemical process. And also, the goat head. That's what it said. Like he's the horn god. And also he's androgynous. He has female breasts, and also he has this phallic, and you see the snakes wrapping around his phallus. That's the caduceus. That's what you see with Apollo. The god of medicine. That's why you see medicine with the WHO. They have this symbol. Um, you know, that's what it's all about. That's why it's like this whole world is Babylonian. It's not just you know one concept. Everything is all linked together. But again, with this androgyny, that's why they're pushing the trans community so hard, because they believe that it's power and bringing the opposites together. Because based off their understanding of the scriptures, they believe that when Adam was whole before Eve was created, that's when he had male and female parts. So he was the perfect creation. So they believe that the Most High defiled man when he brought Eve into the world. He said that they believe it was a he was divine, like a divine hermaphrodite in a way. So that's what that's about. That's why this Baphomet has these body parts like that. And then as you see, we read about where is it? The Caucasian version of Christ. You see right there, his fingers are up, his hand is up, right hand is up. He's pointing to his heart. And then see the sun, the halo. He's the sun god. That's the same thing with Saturn. Same thing with Kronos, or it's the god of time. So that's what's like the Caucasian version of Christ is basically the Baphomet and white face. That's just how they get you to worship that entity without you understanding it. So that's why going back to the main topic. That's why I said they want so-called black people to believe 666 is about melanin or carbon, because they want you to identify that as a part of you, as your identity, because they want you to be the face of the mark of the beast when it comes, because so-called black people are already the face of everything negative in society, whether it's abortion or homicide or drug culture or feminism or radical feminism and the LGBTQ. Everything that's destructive um, in our community rather than constructive is now the face is led by so-called black people, especially liberal blacks, and they wave that flag with pride for real. And when the quote unquote mark of the beast comes out, so-called black people will be the face of that, because the so-called black people, the so-called black man and woman, are the chosen. When I say the chosen, I mean they are the descendants of the people of the book. They are the people of influence, because remember, our people are supposed to be a nation of priests. We're supposed to teach the world how to worship the Most High and how to come to the Most High. But I said our people were led into sin. So our people have the influence to lead the world into righteousness or lead the world into sin. And right now, we're leading the world into more and more sin and more debauchery to fulfill prophecy. So that's why I tell people all the time, it's not about seed line. It's not about race. It's about your spirit. We're not in the old covenant no more. It's based off the new covenant. It's based off the promise, based off the spirit. It's about the elect who are going to have their level of comprehension and perception and understanding elevated in these last days in order to prepare themselves and preserve themselves and their families for the upcoming destruction and judgment. That's what it's about. So that's why it's like it's not about melanin. Melanin doesn't make you special. What makes you special is that you have the connection to the covenant, and that's why it's that's what's going to make you set apart. So so that's all I got, man. Hopefully somebody got some out of it. Again, you don't have to agree with me. I don't expect everybody to agree with me or see things on this level. But if you do, more, hey, all blessings to you. All right. Peace.